Hello, and welcome to SCOA orientation for the 2013-2014 school year. Today we're going to go over some of the state compliance requirements, some of the SCOA policies to help you be successful, and some of the things you need to do to stay enrolled at Southern California Online Academy. So we'll go ahead and get started. So SCOA is, the purpose of these sessions that we do is to make sure that you guys know exactly all the expectations that you should expect from going to an online school. So to ensure your student achievement, which is ultimately our goal, obviously, we want you to be successful here. To understand what online learning looks like and the difference between a typical classroom or traditional high school and the online experience, to understand what the parents can do to help their students be successful, to meet the new kids, and to sign all the necessary paperwork and talk about the necessary paperwork. So SCOA is a full-time independent study blended learning program. So we're on independent study. There's a certain degree of independence that goes along with that. You'll never be marked tardy in our program, for example. We do have a physical location, computer labs. Teachers are here to help you. We have proctored labs that we do for our science classes. We do tutoring sessions, a lot of on-campus social events, and a lot of different things that we go on. Our teachers are here to help you, so make sure you call them, come in, or even text them. Our computer lab hours are for high school are open Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Teachers are in the lab 3 days a week, and through document sharing you've received the computer lab schedule and when the teachers are here, their phone numbers, their email addresses. We give you their phone numbers and their email addresses on purpose so you can get a hold of them. So that's the way you would raise your hand in the typical setting. In this case, you text them, you call them, however you feel appropriate communication would work for you. We're always working on special events like Grad Night, Disneyland, Prom, Morph, which is the backwards prom, and KC test prep, on-campus math tutoring, essay workshops, science labs, and basically to help you do school online. If you're unsure of something, ask. We don't expect that someone gets it the first go-round. If they do, then that's great. If they don't, then that's a problem because we don't want you to be in a situation where you don't earn any credits in the semester. So enrollment requirements for Southern California Online can consist of quite a bit of paperwork, which is ironic for an online school, but an ISMA, which stands for an Independent Study Master Agreement. And this basically outlines the requirements on the student's part, the parent's part, and then the school's part to make independent study, which you'll be on because that's the way that we are funded through the state at Southern California Online Academy, to make sure you understand basically what you're getting yourself into, that you won't have a bell schedule, you're not going to come in during period 1 or anything like that, that a lot of it is time management on the student's standpoint, but also support on our end to make sure that you get the help that you need. But again, I need to stress to you the fact of you need to ask for help when you need it, because if you don't log in for a certain number of days or you don't do your work, you will be dropped from the program, and then it's the only way that you can be at SCOA is through independent study. So if you're dropped from independent study, you cannot be at Southern California Online Academy, which happens once in a while, but not really that much. Attendance, you don't need to come in every day necessarily, but you must make adequate progress and log in each and every day into your class. We pull an inordinate amount of data from our system. We know how many minutes you've been in the system, if you've logged in that day or not, if you've done any work that day. But attendance is verified at Southern California Online Academy and any independent study program by the work that is done. So you can go in, click around on your classes a little bit, but if you're not doing any work, then that's where the problem comes in. So we'll talk a little bit more on a later slide about samples of your work. Those need to be turned in every week in a timely fashion or you will be dropped from the program. Daily engagement is another state-required paperwork system that we have based on being a charter school. The learning coach or the student can verify that they did something academic that day, each and every day. And you're supposed to log into each class for 60 minutes a day, so that shouldn't be a problem. It should be 6 hours a day, including online and offline activity. And this is turned in at the end of each week through a course called Online Learning. Measuring progress in class, students will complete and submit all daily lessons every day in each class. We don't care when you do the work, but you need to do the work. In some cases, we have students that finish an entire day's worth of class in 45 minutes. We don't tell them to sit quietly for the next 15 minutes until the next class begins. They can go right into that. In other cases, we have students that might take an hour and a half to work through one particular course, and we encourage you to take advantage of that flexibility because obviously in alternative education, as in Southern California Online Academy, we understand the need for flexibility in the student experience. So daily engagements being marked each day that reflects the time that you're doing this work. We track your attendance by your user activity. We see the minutes that you're spending on the quizzes, tests, assignments, and parents and students can track attendance by marking the daily engagement form, which includes offline activities. So if you do school every single day and you turn in your work and show samples of work, you'll do fine at SCOA. If you don't, then you're technically truant by the state of California and you will be dropped from the program because that's what we're bound to by the state of California. This is an example of what we see on, and what parents can see actually on the user activity screen on the gradebook. So in this example, let me get some. Take a little bit here. In this example, we have the semester introduction. They took 4 minutes, which they would have taken a little bit longer, but that's okay. What we like to see is the quiz not taking that much time. So in this case, the student was ready for the quiz. They probably took as much time as they needed to learn about relations. In this case, it's a math course. So they took 8 minutes to review the material and took the quiz. What we don't like seeing necessarily is the fact that they took 13 minutes to learn about functions and then took 47 minutes on taking the quiz. Once you start the quiz it has started. You can take as much time as you need to get ready to take that quiz. Within reason, obviously you need to finish it before the grading term, but really you should take the quiz when you're ready to take the quiz. So the fact that it took this student 47 minutes to go over a 5-question quiz really shows us that they weren't ready to take the quiz on functions, because what we'd like to see is more time spent on the actual material, the tutorials, asking help of the teacher if they need to, and then by the time they take the quiz they should be able to just rush through it because they understand all the information that is being asked of them. This is a sample gradebook. If you notice some of these, there's a bunch of different forms here. Excused means it's been excused by the teacher. In this case, it might have been that the student started later in the semester, or the teacher came up with another assignment, so they excused these. So excused means basically they're not responsible for the work. The points of the individual assignments can be accessed here. A 2 out of 5 would be a 40%. But the great thing about K-12 and our curriculum that we use is that if you click on the actual assignment, it'll give you what you got right and what you got wrong, so then you can study for a midterm or a higher point test, as in this 5 out of 55 points. So I would say that this gradebook is pretty accurate. If a kid got a 40%, a 20%, a 20%, and a 20%, we wouldn't really be surprised that they only got a 5 out of 55 on the unit test because they weren't doing well on the quizzes. So again, take the quiz when you're ready, ask for help when you need it, because once you start that test, it is go time. Because when you have the quiz right here with a 0 out of 5, that could mean a couple of things. One is that they actually got a 0 out of 5 and they missed all the questions on the test, or it is a missing assignment. Now, missing assignments are a huge deal because by ed code, if you miss 3 missing if you have 3 missing assignments, we're bound to hold a meeting to determine if independent study is the right placement for you. Because if you're missing all your work and not turning in your work, that goes back to a previous slide that we had that described the need for turning in your work. If you're not turning in your work, you're technically not attending school because you're not going to a physical campus. It's a switch off between going to an actual campus and doing your work. Even if you went to school every day at a traditional campus and weren't doing any work, you would still be marked at or marked present at that school. At Southern California Online Academy, it all is based on the work that you're doing. So if you do your work and you you don't have any problem like that and you want to sleep in late or go to school in your pajamas, that's one of the cool things about SCOA, but you still need to do the work because that's part of your enrollment requirements to stay enrolled, of course. Okay, so zeros are never good because zeros really hurt your GPA too, but zeros when they're missing assignments are a really a big problem because that means that we need to have that meeting to determine if it's the right placement or not. And usually if you're failing your classes, we understand that it's not the right placement, and so then you'd be disenrolled from the school. If you have a dash, which parents, I always like to point this out because during the first week of school, this is where we get a lot of calls because they're worried about their students, as they should be sometimes. But dashes mean that the work hasn't been required yet. So the appropriate pacing of this particular class, they are up to less than 2.06. So that was the last thing. Today, or maybe the next day, they would be responsible for 2.07. So a dash means that they just haven't got to that point yet. If you are looking for things that your student can address to make their grade, reflect their knowledge or the work that they've done, you're looking for zeros, you're looking for 1s out of 5s, so they can make up those points in some cases. But hopefully we never see zeros because missing assignments, as we talked about, are no good. Daily engagement form, you have this in doc sharing. Basically what it is it's a checkoff sheet that allows you to mark that you've done some work in that class each day. We're recommending 60 minutes a day. If it takes you a little bit less than that, then we're fine with that. If it takes you more than that, we're obviously okay with that. But you need to be doing something in each and every classes of your days. Just like if you are at a traditional school, you don't go to first period and then say, I don't feel like going to second and third period, and I'll do that some other day. Your grade will suffer as a result, and that's something that we don't want, obviously. The state of California wants you to have that daily engagement because they want to prove that you're doing something academic in each day when you're not in front of a teacher every single day. So that's how you stay on top of that. And we've found that the more that you're keeping on the right pacing of the class, obviously your grade is better as a result. We have some kids that by the last week of school, they've done all their work, they've done extra credit opportunities to where they don't even need to take the final because they have, maybe 110% in the class. So that's something that we wish every kid would take advantage of. But sometimes it's not the case, but we understand there's flexibility in the time that you do the work, but not on the amount of work that you do. One kind of misconception that we'd like to get out of the way real quick is that SCOA is easier curriculum. It definitely is not. It is a solid curriculum, and there's high expectations for all our students in it, but it does offer flexibility in the fact that we've never marked a student tardy, we've never suspended or expelled a kid here, but it's all based on the flexibility and taking advantage of that flexibility, but not to the point where it's being a detriment to your achievement here. So in some cases, the students that perform well at SCOA create their own time management system. And if something comes up, if they are 30 minutes late, for example, because they had a recital or something like that, that's fine. Just let us know if anything's out of the ordinary, so we understand that, a computer was down yesterday, but I'm going to work over the weekend. Kids can do that too, but you need to be doing something academic each and every day, and K-12 and our curriculum provides that too. If you have any questions on how to fill out a daily engagement form, you have a homeroom teacher assigned to you too that they would be happy to help you out with that as well. So in this case, this is one of our teachers, Mrs. G, she's a math teacher. In this case, she would only be enrolled in 3 classes, one of them starting a little bit later, the biology class starting a little bit later. So in this case, she initialed each and every day that she did something for math, she did something for science, she did something for PE. She signed it at the end. Parents and students can sign this actually, and dated it. And then what she would do is submit a work sample or a sample of her work from math, from science, and from PE, 1 per week, not 1 per day. For daily engagement, you do something every day. For your work samples or your samples of work, you just pick something that you did that week. If it's a screenshot of it's an essay. If it's some other part 2, which you'll learn about, then you can turn that in as a sample of your work. And again, that's how we prove that you're actually working on the curriculum and making adequate progress. And that's a state requirement. That's not anything that we just thought would be a good idea. We do have a non-compliancy process. Students that are not working are considered non-compliant for two reasons. One, because it's not going to be an effective curriculum for them, and we don't want a student to get in a position where they're enrolled in a school that they aren't gaining credits in. So this would be not logging in. Obviously, you need to work every single day, because if you don't log in one day and miss 3 assignments, you're already non-compliant. If you miss 3 or more assignments, if we can't contact you, if you're not working and we can't get a hold of you, and usually we'll contact you when you're not logging in or missing assignments, but being unable to contact the family. So if something changes, new cell phone for Christmas, whatever, then make sure we have those new numbers, just because when we get a hold of you, we're trying to help you out and make sure that you understand the curriculum and that you're getting the most out of Southern California Online Academy. Not coming to a scheduled meeting. If you can't come to take a test or something like that, you need to take the test, or if you're not coming to a meeting where we're talking about non-compliance, how we can help you out, then we assume that you don't want to go to Southern California Online Academy. Internet is a vital part of the program. The name of the school up here, Southern California Online Academy. If you don't have access to internet, it's probably not a good idea to be enrolled in an online school. So make sure you have a backup plan. A lot of fast food places have wireless. We have some kids that they do a lot of their work from Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King. If you have internet at your house, it's obviously better to have a comfortable place to do your work. Just if you're working, keeping in mind if you're working from home, like telecommuting with a job when you're an adult, it's the same as when you're telecommuting when you're a student. So make sure you have a kind of safe place, a safe place, a comfortable place to where you will be working for a majority of the day on your work, because like I said before, Southern California Online Academy is not an easier program necessarily. It's easier for students that need flexibility, not an easier, there's definitely not less work to be completed too. In the case of a non-compliant student, the school will contact the family via phone, email, etc., send letters home, and schedule meetings. But of course, as always, it's our hope to resolve any issues by working together. So if you didn't know you were supposed to turn work in, first off, you've seen the orientation session, so you would know that that's something that you need to do. If you didn't know, you don't know how to do a particular assignment, ask your teachers. There's teachers waiting to help students out, so just take advantage of them, and that's why we give you their cell phone numbers and their email numbers and their K-mail addresses and everything like that. So just make sure, if we keep it down to 3, if you log in every day, you do the work when it's assigned, and you ask for help when you need it, you will do fantastically at SCOA. There are some in-person requirements for grades 10. In April, there's going to be the California State test for life science, which is actually a federal requirement. If you're a 9th grader, there's a PFT, or physical fitness test, which starts in February to March, which measures how fast you can run a mile, how many push-ups you can do, etc. If you're a 10th grader as well, the high school exit exam is given for the first time in March, which you'll receive those dates and times via K-mail. If you're 11th grader or 12th grader that has yet to pass the high school exit exam, you will get that information as well, because that's a California State requirement to pass. If you're planning on going directly to a UC or CSU after high school, then you need to come in for proctored wet labs, and those are complete on campus on a weekly basis. And state testing, or called CalMap testing, starts on April 7th, which you'll get notification on when and where you'll be taking that test as well. So those are the in-person requirements. Other than that, it's the communication that goes on between the student and the student, parent, and teacher that is required. So learning how to do school online, it is different. We understand that. It's not like you show up to the class, to a school, and they say go to room 803 and they'll teach you how to, they'll pass out a syllabus. We do a syllabi and we pass out all that same information, but we do it in an online format. So the way the first week of school is going to look, or looked if you're watching this after the fact, On Monday, January 13th, there's no school for students. Teacher workday, you will have access to see your classes, so you'll know kind of what's going in. If you're going to a later orientation session, one that's maybe on that Friday, the January 10th, there might be a delay in you getting your classes. That's why we push for students to come as early as they can to their electives, because you can't start in the program without an independent study master agreement. On Tuesday, you're going to be working on your online learning course, which is scheduled, and it will be scheduling students from there any day now. And that'll be teaching you basically how to do school online and the basic requirements that we're going over now. We talked a lot about daily engagement and turning in work samples and those kind of things. They'll get into more in-depth discussions on there. On this week, then, we start with our online sessions via Illuminate, which are basically the links down here. So on that day, if you're scheduled in geometry, which you would know if you were because you're going to see your classes over here on Monday, or by Monday or Tuesday, then you would just click on the link and that would take you to an Illuminate room, which we'll see on the next page. But you're in Illuminate right now since you're watching this session. So you'll work on the online learning course. You'll start with your math course at 10 a.m. Try to get there early. We always tell you get there 10 minutes early so you can make sure you have Java and everything, all the plugins that you need. So go to the math course. That's where you can ask your questions. Your math teacher will go over an orientation for their particular course and the way they have it set up. Right after that, you'll start working on your math course. You can take your first couple quizzes and that kind of stuff, and those kind of assignments. At 11 o'clock that day, if you're scheduled in the science course, then you would go to the science orientation. And at that point, you would only be expected to work on your math and your science curriculum. So it's a nice slow start getting into the program. In that case, you would have basically a 2-period day. On Thursday, you would go to an English orientation, learn about how the processes of English, social science at 11 o'clock on that day, and continue working in your math and your science classes, which you've been shown how to do on the previous day. We recommend and would say that they're required to go to these live Illuminate sessions because we need you to understand how to do school online in the right way. We find that the kids that go to these live typically do much better than the students that say they'll get to them and then end up never watching the sessions and getting that information, because that's important. We want you to be successful, and that's why we do these things. We've been doing it for 4 years now, so we understand that. So on if you're scheduled in PE, you'll have an orientation on Friday at 10 a.m. Same thing as Spanish, it'll be at 11. And if you have any electives, then you'll get information on that as well. At 1 p.m. on Friday, January 17th, there will be a homeroom session in your online learning class, which you'll be working on that a little bit. This is curriculum that doesn't have a teacher attached to it. When you start, it'll just kind of walk you through how to solve problems, how to download some of the plugins, how to turn things into the Dropbox, how to go to an Illuminate session, how to turn in your quizzes, those kind of things. But when you go here on Friday, January 17th, this will be anything that you need to possibly understand how to take care of the samples of work, how to turn things into your teachers, how to get help if you need it. So make sure you go to this session as well as the other ones so you know how to do your classes. And then this would be almost like a somewhat homeroom session to walk you through, okay, now that you know how to do all these, this is how you're going to, really make sure that you're successful. Your links are down here. I've also uploaded this into the doc sharing, so you probably were prompted to save those when you first came into the room. This is what the Illuminate room looks like, which is kind of weird because you're looking at one right now. So you can see me up here in the video. If you were here live, you could chat, and I would have responses down at the bottom here. And all the interactivity going on takes place in this area right here. So that's what it'll look like. This is more for the parents to see exactly what the classroom will be for your students when they're in there. Okay. To find course information, this is a real quick overview. You can kind of figure it out by clicking around in there, which we encourage you to explore because you'll never break the system really. But if you wanted to learn more about how your student, or if you're a student you want to understand how you're doing in a particular class, click on the name of the course. So I'm going to click Algebra Foundations. What that'll bring me to is an overview of my class. There's my Algebra Foundations course. It'll give me some information, the primary teacher, when I started, all that kind of thing. It shows you activity log of when you last logged on, which is important. Of course, you're going to be logging in every single day because that's what we tell you to do. You can see a really quick overview of anything that you have to do, anything that you haven't turned in, anything you've submitted, and anything that's graded. But what we would always recommend, and don't even use these course average to date because it's always off by a little bit, you want the most accurate information because it's available to you, so take advantage of it. But clicking this Access Course button allows you to go in and get as much detailed information on the course as you can imagine, I guess. By clicking there, I go in, this would be my class. I can get information over here on the side if I want to learn more about Class Connect, take a course survey or a reference guide. Sometimes there's extra credit. Taking quizzes and accessing my units over here on the side, or my work samples or samples of work. Reading my announcements, always an important thing to do, because once in a while you'll have an announcement by a teacher that says, hey, guess what, I don't want you to do the unit test today because everybody came to the Illuminate session, and so let's celebrate and have an easier day. So you want to make sure that you read that. But to get the most detailed information, the thing that you probably care the most about, you want to go to the Gradebook here. So you click the Gradebook link, and that would take you to the screen that we had earlier where we said look out for zeros, and where you can click and get that functionality too. So a note on assignment retakes though, and we talked about it earlier too, is take the quizzes and tests when you are ready to take the quizzes and tests. So prepare for them, take as long as you need to study for them. If it takes you an hour longer than it would at a traditional school to study for the quizzes, that's one of the greatest things about the program, is that you have that flexibility to take as long as you need, or as short as you need, to get ready for the test. So once you hit begin, you have to finish it at that time. You can't come back later, and once you've seen the question, obviously that makes sense because you should be ready to take the quiz and any problems that are posed for you at that time. Ignore the timer. There's kind of a distracting timer when you're taking that quiz. We found for some of our kids, they stress out about that. The most high-tech thing that we've thought about to solve that problem, put a post-it note over it or whatever. The only thing that's used for is to calculate the user activity minutes spent on that quiz, which we don't really care about. All we care about is how you perform on that test. So study for the test when you're ready for it. We won't ever throw out any pop quizzes at you because we want to make sure you're successful. So if it takes you longer than the typical 55-minute period to prepare for a test, then take as long as you need. But within reason, you have to be working on it and do it at a certain time too. So in your packet, or what I've shared with you with documents, you have the orientation presentation. You can watch this 20 times if you wanted to. You have the orientation schedule. You have the teacher contact info, which is important. Put those in your cell phone, in your email contacts, whatever you need to do. And then on the back of that page, you have what's called a student weekly checklist, which basically gives you an outline of what you should do to be successful for the week. So the first thing you do, always check your K-mail. There might be important announcements or something that even I send out or the counselor sends out. So you want to make sure you read those. An important note about K-mail is when a teacher sends a K-mail to a student, and this is more for the parent side of it, parents automatically get CC'd on that email, so then they'd have access to any communication that's going to their student as well. So that's something for parents to make sure that they check too, because we send out good information all the time. So what it takes to be successful is logging in every day to your class, which we've talked about, student and learning coach. So you have an amount of information that you've never had available to you as a parent or a student. You know exactly how you're doing in the class at any time. Now if you turn in an essay, it's not going to be graded in 5 seconds because we have an actual teacher grading it, not like a robot or anything like that. So, but if you're looking for how you're doing in your class, we don't believe in surprises when it comes to grading time. So just making sure that the learning coach and the student are logging in every day so they can check on how they're doing. Asking questions, that is one of the most important things and one of the things that helps students be as successful as they possibly can. So K-mail, phone call, text, call the office, call the school, call the principal if you need to. My number's on the teacher contact list as well. Just ask questions about anything that you're getting confused about because we can help you out with those. We've done it. So. Following the teacher's pacing guide and checking announcements daily, the teacher has a pacing guide of what you will do for the entire semester. So you could right now, if you went into your math class, if you're scheduled in it, you could see what you will be doing May 14th if you wanted to. So that's posted way in advance. So again, we don't really believe in surprises. You can plan your life around that. If you have, we have some kids doing some pretty amazing things, and that's why they're here, because of the flexibility. If you're, trying out for the Olympics, which I think we have one of our students doing, if you're trying out for the Olympics that day and, you're prioritizing around that, which you should obviously, then you know that you might need to work a little bit ahead to give you that flexibility for that day off. Taking notes in the student guide or in a notebook. So I've also attached the Cornell Notes Guide. You'll learn how to do that in your online learning class. So taking notes so you can go back and study those. It's an open book test. You can use whatever notes you take. So make sure you take notes and make sure you ask questions so you have the best notes that you could possibly have. Really important, spending about 60 minutes per class each day. That we've talked about that kind of ad nauseum at this point, but spending as much time as you would in a traditional school in the class. Now if you get to the point where you're finishing school in 4 hours because like I said, it's not easier, but if it is easier for you and you're taking advantage of the flexibility in your time and you're able to move at that pace, talk to us about alternative graduation plans. We have a lot of kids that graduate in 3 years because they're able to accelerate, but that obviously requires more time that they're putting into the system. But we can help work with that, or if we're in a credit situation or credit recovery situation because you've been unsuccessful at your previous school or whatever, then let us know that too, so then we can help you out and make sure that you graduate on your terms rather than anyone else's. Go to the Illuminate session scheduled by your teachers. Now we've exempted all work on those days that those are scheduled, so you need to go to those or you're not working that day, which is a problem which we've talked about a couple times. So go to those Illuminate sessions scheduled by your teacher. If something happens, your computer blows up, go to that, find another computer and go to those sessions. We prefer you go to them live, and you probably get more points if you go to them live. But you can go to them recorded as well. Or if you ever need to go back and study from those sessions, go back, study for them. That's kind of a unique opportunity that we're able to provide here, because if you were at a traditional school, you couldn't raise your hand and say, hey, I was sick yesterday, or I couldn't make it yesterday. Can you go over everything that you went over yesterday? Because the teacher would look like you're crazy, or look at you like you're crazy. At Southern California Online Academy, you can always go back and watch that same Illuminate over and over again. Study for quizzes and tests before attempting them. That kind of makes sense. You should be ready for the quiz or test before you take it. And if you're not ready for the quiz or test, talk to your teacher, watch the Illuminates, go to the study guides, watch the tutorials over, take as much time as you need to prepare for those quizzes and tests. Parents and students, you should be having a discussion about what you're doing in class. You should be logging in every day too, the students and the learning coaches. So make sure you're, again, we don't ever want surprises when it comes to achievement here, and we want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we all want this. Obviously, the student wants to be successful, parent wants to be successful, and we want the student to be successful as well. So this is a short little, what's called a Wordle, and it takes the highest frequently said results of a survey that we gave to students that were successful at SCOA. And so the most commonly, the way you could read this, the most commonly stated strategy would be don't fall behind and ask questions and make a schedule, which probably goes with not falling behind. So making sure that you follow those pacing guides, that you ask for help when you need it. We surveyed our students here at Southern California Online, and this is what they said helped them be successful. Because if someone wasn't successful, then we don't know. It makes sense to ask them. This is a little bit of data. This is kind of the data geek part of it. But this is the user activity minutes, and as you can see, the way to read this graph is you have the total user activities from the least amount to the most amount, and the grade based on the lowest grade and the highest grade. So in this case, basically what you want to be looking for, or what we want you to notice anyway, is the trend that the more time you put into the course, the higher grade that you get. So in this case, this person put in not even close to the amount that the state required them to be in the class, and they got about an 8% in the class, which is probably exactly what they deserved out of that class. Now the more time you put in, the higher grade you get. In this case, this student put in more time than they would at a traditional school, but that was what they needed, and I know this student personally, that is what they needed to be successful in the class. So granted, they got a 60%, which isn't an A+ or anything like that, but they passed the course with the amount of time they were able to put into it. So in some cases, they were working on the weekends, at nights, kind of whatever it took to get past that class. Here's another example in geometry. It gets to the point where you can see it over and over again. But in American Lit, it's just you want to see the trend. Now this kid that put in about 100 hours, 200 hours of work into the course, obviously deserve that 4% that they earned in the course as well. So basically what you need to make sure that you have in before you start the program, because you won't be in the program without this, is signing your Independent Study Master Agreement, picking your electives so we can get those scheduled in as soon as possible, and that we have that turned in. You can keep the packet of the daily engagement. You'll be turning that in with your online learning course. And I just want to thank you for coming to the session. We look forward to working with you guys and making sure that Southern California Online Academy is the right school for you. I have a couple more things to show you. These are our grad requirements if you're coming from out of district. These are required of every student in our district, including Southern California Online Academy, of course. So you have access to these. You need to pass CASI. The credits are kind of a normal thing. Sometimes they're off by 10 or 15, depending on the district you're coming from. But 220 is our credit total with these courses involved in it. Health is a requirement, PE is a requirement, electives are a requirement, and community service, however, you need 40 by the time you graduate. I would recommend taking the service learning course because you're able to get the 48-hour community service credit done and earn 5 elective credits, which we know you need 55 as well. And passing the high school exit exam, you need a score of 350 or above. You take that starting in grade 10. If you haven't passed it or come from a private school, then you take that in grade 11 or 12 because it is a state grad requirement. And we do have some SCOA frequently asked questions. What do I do every day? You're required to log in every day to all your classes, read your announcements, take online lessons, and take notes, offline quizzes, labs. But it should be about 60 minutes a day. You have access, like I said before, to a pacing guide, and the teachers usually put on the announcements page of everything that you would be doing for that day or that week. So make sure you take advantage, and of course, make sure you ask questions if you need to do that as well. Some more of them. If your assignments are not popping up when you click on them, you might have your pop-up blocker on, which is a problem. And this is some ways on how to make sure that you get those taken care of. So tech is obviously a big part of our school. It's in the name of the school, so make sure. But you usually need a couple plugins: Flash, QuickTime, Reader, a Word program such as OpenOffice, which is a free version. Pages will work too if you're using a Mac. If your internet goes out, what do? Take advantage of the school computer lab if you can. Going to Starbucks or another provider that uses free Wi-Fi, going to friends and family member, or a public library where they offer free internet. But obviously, internet is a vital part of our school. Like I said before, it's in the name of the school, so that's important. But the most important thing here is how to get in touch with your teachers if you need help, if you need tech help, if you need to make sure, or just let them know, like, hey, something's going on with my computer, I need to figure it out. Just contact your teacher so we can make sure that you guys are successful, because that's all we really care about at the end of the day. So make sure you have your Independent Study Master Agreement and you pick your electives, and if you're a parent and you've signed up, make sure you have your student account created, because that's how we will schedule you in those courses. And as always, if you have any questions, you can call your teacher, call me, my number's on the file share that I gave, or call the school at 951-253-7777. We make it memorable for a reason, so please use it and we will help you out. Okay, thanks and have a great day. And see you soon.